So why are you doing it in crypto? I don't know. But with IBC, we aim to solve that basically. And the designers of IBC did it in a very creative way. So next. All right. In order to understand how IBC works, I like to use the example of shipping. This is painting by a guy named Tendermint, painting from about 1754, and it shows the shipping port of all these ships bringing in all this different stuff. Maybe they're bringing in wheat, maybe they're bringing in fabric, maybe they're bringing in wine. Next. One of the challenges back then was that there was no standardization or continuity. So if I was sending wine from France to Spain, France and Spain might use different sized barrels or different types of wine and label them differently. What we have in the 20th century is suddenly all of this stuff has been standardized. So we have shipping containers that are standardized. The size of cargo ships is standardized. So there's a common language for shipping globally. And what this means is it doesn't matter what you're shipping. You can ship wine, you can ship wheat, you can ship anything you want, but you know how much is going to fit into a container, and so does your recipient on the other side. Next. That is how IBC works. So these designers of IBC, basically they looked at it, and they said, how can we create standardization around the transport layer such that we can create a language where blockchains can talk about sending and receiving data in a way that makes sense. And so what they created was a standardized transport layer. And this is very different from the way other bridges work. Most bridges, like Synapse, for example, or multi-chain, they exist in silos. So basically, they exist on their own. They can't really talk to each other. They have their own custom wiring. They have to have different smart contracts and different chains. It's rather complex, and they're not really able to communicate. They're not really interoperable among one another. However, with IBC, because we have this standardized transport layer that many chains share, we call it transport layer semantics. So basically, chains have their own instances of these elements. They can all talk to each other. They all speak the same language. Next. This is the basic structure for what the IBC looks like. I'm not going to go through all these different parts because it's like very complicated and quite honestly, you guys should probably all take now. But at the top we have the application layer, and then the next four main pieces are what comprises the transport layer. So we have channels, connections, light clients, and then relayers. And basically, one of the really important parts of what makes IBC they actually verify on their own that the transaction happened. There's nobody sitting in the middle saying, you should trust me that this transaction happened. It's these two blockchains directly confirming from one another's data that this actually happened. And this is what is the core of what makes IBC very secure. Next. All right. Now some cool things you can do in IBC. First, I'll talk to you about some very brief concepts, and then I'll show you some products you can actually use right now on your phone to go experiment. So first things first, one of the really interesting things that you can do with IBC is build cross-chain native smart contracts. So this is not possible in a lot of other ecosystems, but with us it is possible. So if you're a smart contract developer, your contracts can be cross-chain native from the start. Next, you can do cool things like cross-chain account control, which is basically a fancy word for saying you can stay on one chain and perform a whole bunch of actions on other chains. But from a development perspective, what this allows developers to do is to build really unique and interesting products that
leverage other chains' capabilities. And then finally, if you're a developer, we offer asynchronous communication, which basically allows you to create really cool and complex workflows that might leverage multiple smart contracts or applications. Next. All right, guys, now I'm going to show you a sampling of products that use IBC on the back end. I only chose these because you can play with them on your phone right now, and they use IBC in cool ways. So if you're not familiar with IBC, definitely try these guys out. So first is Stride. They use cross-chain native, they have cross-chain native liquid staking that you can do in exactly one click. So unlike Lido, where you're just liquid staking on Ethereum, on Stride, you can liquid stake on any of their supported chains with one click. And that's only possible through IBC. Next. Next, we have TFM, and they offer they offer many IBC products. This is one of them, and this is their widget where you can swap from anywhere to anywhere. So, I mean, imagine if you could like very easily swap, I don't know, from Ethereum to Solana in 2 seconds, but then swap it back over 47 different chains. You can do that here. They also offer a cool widget where if you're a developer, you can customize it and then utilize this on your own app. Next. Next is Skip. They offer a custom REST RPC service also for IBC, which is a fancy way of saying they offer a utility to developers who want to do really complex IBC interactions, and they've simplified it down and made it into a utility that those developers can use. A fun thing that you can play with on your phone featuring this is their own multi-swap front end, which is at ibc.fun. So if you want to have some fun, go there. Next. All right, and then we have Quasar, and they have cross-chain native vaulting. So this is, again, really interesting and only possible via IBC. But one of the cool things about this as well is that their strategies leverage multiple chains, and everything happens really, really quickly and instantly because of IBC. There's no like weird bridging stuff, sending your tokens off into the ether. It's all very, very easy to use. Next, please. All right, guys, these are my final notes. If you are excited about the Interchain Stack, if you're excited about Cosmos, if you want some more support so you can get started, there's 2 free programs that we have that you can apply for. The first one is an incubator, so if you have an existing project and you want to take your project to the next level, the Builders Academy is an incubator for founders and their teams to support you on technical and other things. In addition, we have the Interchain Developer Academy. So if you are a developer and you are looking to upskill and learn the stack, you can join that program as well. It's 7 weeks designed to take you from novice to expert, and it is also free. So if you are interested in any of these things, feel free to take a photo. They have constant rounds of these programs all the time. Next. And that is it, guys. You've now learned about IBC, heard about some of the resources we have to offer. And finally, if you are interested in seeing how some of this IBC stuff comes to life on your own device, come to Cosmoverse, and we will be hosting a workshop on relayer fee incentivization, which is complicated, but basically, if you have your own laptop and you're a developer, you'll be able to spin up your own chain and actually experiment with doing all of this in a test setting. So please do join us there. That is it. Thank you, everyone.
Maybe some question?
I didn't get how general purpose IBC is going.
Could you please closer a bit?
I didn't get how general purpose IBC is going to be. Like, is the eventual goal to have an IBC connection between like Solana and Ethereum, for example?
So, short answer, yes. I think an interesting thing about IBC right now is IBC currently works best with the Interchain Stack. However, the IBC teams are working towards making IBC Go in particular generic. So these are some of the workflows that will enable IBC to be more and more widely used over time. So that could be something in the future.
So to follow up, why? Because isn't it easier to have like a set of standards which make it easier? Or is the goal to have like complete general purpose? Like where do you see it eventually going towards like building standards on top of IBC? Like so that it would only work with certain blockchains?
So IBC ultimately aims to be like TCP/IP. It aims to be an information superhighway for blockchains. In an ideal world, in 20 years, all interoperability will just be IBC, and people won't even know what IBC is because it's just there.
Yes, and thank so much, maybe, again. And now...
the key contributor of CosmWasm, and I'm very delighted to introduce you the CosmWasm, the very exciting aspect of Cosmos. So whether you are a blockchain enthusiast or the complete newcomer, this talk will provide you with comprehensive understanding of CosmWasm, what it is, why it matters with its adoption, and with its history. So let's see. Let's dive in. So what is CosmWasm? So Cosmos is an ecosystem of a blockchain. It is designed with scalability from design, and it offers a modular architecture. So which means on Cosmos SDK offers different modules, modules for example governance, modules for bank, modules for staking or slashing. So there are different type of modules. So as you can see here, you can make a figure out of these Lego blocks. You can build a chain with combining these modules. And CosmWasm is one of these modules for Cosmos SDK chain. And what is virtual machine, VM? Virtual machine is a virtual environment that has its own CPU, memories, network interface, acts like and functions on created on hardware. And WASM, WebAssembly, is actually a very highly optimized VM with very little overhead. And WASM is very strong and performant. It's a lot faster than JavaScript, and Rust is one of the major supporting languages. And CosmWasm, in short, is a smart contracting platform written as a module, can be plugged in to Cosmos SDK chain. So it's basically Cosmos' way of utilizing WASM, so that's the name, CosmWasm. The next slide, please. So now let's see why CosmWasm matters. Because I personally think CosmWasm is basically Cosmos identity. Well, we'll see later, but there are other ecosystems, but they're more leaning to Ethereum virtual machine EVM. But CosmWasm is basically Cosmos. There are over 30 chains in Cosmos using CosmWasm, and 90% of new chains they have CosmWasm baked in from the beginning. And look, there are more 900,000 downloads of CosmWasm standard library. And why CosmWasm is so popular in Cosmos? That's because CosmWasm is built with the security-first mindset. Because, you know, historically speaking, there have been a lot of billions of dollars hacking incidents in ecosystem of Ethereum, like DAO and parity multisig, and that's due to Solidity, Ethereum's smart contract language's structural defects, like reentrance issue. But CosmWasm prevents this kind of issue from the design, so it's eliminated, right? So that's why we didn't see that kind of hacking incidents in CosmWasm chains. And second of all, CosmWasm is very popular in Cosmos ecosystem because it is designed with the multi-chain by nature. IBC is integrated inside of CosmWasm from the very beginning, and that's why CosmWasm became the go-to smart contract platform in the Cosmos ecosystem. Next slide, please. So let's compare with some other options. So Solidity, which is an Ethereum smart contract language, Well, Ethereum has a huge dev community, and Ethereum has a dev tooling environment a lot more advanced than us. But, and I think that's because Solidity has syntax which is similar to JavaScript, and we have a lot of JavaScript developer out there, which makes the entry barrier relatively easy. So let's say, I think we can say Solidity prioritized easiness. But CosmWasm, like I briefly touched, it's more prioritized the security. So that's one of our strengths. And the testing, like unit testing in Solidity is quite difficult. But CosmWasm offers multi-levels of testing, like including unit, integration, and full stack testing. And also CosmWasm can handle the high transaction throughput, which can process like hundreds of transactions per second. And since CosmWasm contracts can be deployed on multiple chains, we can share the loads and keep the cost low. And, sorry, and the composability, we offer a similar type of like ability to compose your smart contract like Ethereum, but with better security support. And flexibility. In Ethereum, it's not possible to write a contract across chains or migrate a project from one chain to another. But CosmWasm is built on Cosmos SDK and IBC. It provides such power. Next, please. And let's look at Solana now. Solana was really, really fast. Their throughput was amazing. And actually, Solana was beyond EVM and CosmWasm. It got a really meaningful traction in DeFi. But Solana API is a super low level and really difficult to write contracts. Meanwhile, CosmWasm offers the optimized with large classes of simpler contracts, so it was easier. It's easier to write contracts with CosmWasm. Next, please. Polkadot, yes. So people used to compare a lot Polkadot with Cosmos in earlier days. And that's because there are some similarity. Like Polkadot also offers blockchain construction kits, parity substrate. And Ink is the Polkadot smart contract language that compiles to WASM. And that supports pre-contract called Palette. And you can deploy any smart contract in Parachain. But since Palette is interface and virtual machine at the same time, testing contracts is quite difficult. And the execution semantic of VM is difficult to understand because it's hard-coded in Palette itself rather than abstracted library of its own. Meanwhile, CosmWasm is a VM and also a library, so this problem is solved. And also, by its design, CosmWasm is very highly customizable. So that's why project like Composable Finance chose CosmWasm and building on Polkadot stack instead of using Ink. And so far, I didn't hear anything vice versa case in Cosmos. And there's also a smart contract specific chain called Astar on Polkadot stack. And they enable both EVM and WASM, but recently they're focusing more on EVM. Next slide, please. So yeah, how about the comparison with Cosmos SDK? Cosmos SDK is a fantastic tool to start your own chain. But CosmWasm offers the similar performance and interface without the need to start the standalone blockchain. Because actually building and maintaining a blockchain requires a lot of overhead, including attracting validators, etc. But with CosmWasm, you don't have to start from a chain. You can start to write a contract, and you can build on existing blockchain. until it's necessary. You don't need to build a chain. And CosmWasm also simplifies the migration from one chain to another without the chain level coordination. And also, it also provides stable APIs, which means we make sure your code remain compatible with future Cosmos SDK API changes, so that you don't have to deal with every API changes of Cosmos SDK. And CosmWasm offers CW Storage Plus that provides type-safe database access and secondary indexes and snapshotting. An easy composition. So whenever there's a new module integration comes up for SDK, it's a bit complicated. It's a bit more complex. But CosmWasm offers more straightforward function that you can upload and wire contracts more efficiently. Next page, please. So yeah, now let's look at the history of 4 years of CosmWasm journey. 2019, at the Berlin Hackathon, CosmWasm was born, and not like other members, Ethan wanted to make it grow for the main infrastructure, like smart contracting platform for Cosmos, when there was no support from the community or foundation yet, and that's how it started. Next page, please. So 2020 was the year we did a lot of first things. So in March, we did the first community call, bi-weekly call, to gather the feedback from the users and to share our technical updates and build up more CosmWasm dev. And in May, CosmWasm, Terra became the first CosmWasm enabled chain in May 2020. And you guys know the story, right? Like they went to the moon before they collapsed. And this was actually my first business developer deal in Confio. And around this time, Interchain Foundation supported us, so we could hire up more developers to build a foundation for more CosmWasm dev community. And from August this year, we started the DevRel activity with Orkun here. So yeah, Orkun gave monthly dev workshop for developers. And yeah, I did the moderator, feedback survey, editing the video, spread the words basically. Next page, please. In 2021, the early, in January time, I think, the Cosmos standard for blockchain interoperability, IBC, was finally launched. And right after, the IBC-enabled CosmWasm smart contracts implementation was done. So it opened up the multi-chain future. It was a very historical moment. And in continuation with our DevRel activity, we did the first Riddleton. It was Orkun's perfect idea. It's like hackathon, but lowering the barrier with more lucrative, and entertaining aspect. So it's like you solve the riddles and you know more about the CosmWasm. And since this was a plan, the COVID center time, this was an online event, and first time we collaborated with other chains. And at the end of 2021, Osmosis community decided to integrate CosmWasm. And around this time, Ethan Fry started the CosmWasm for CTO series article, which got a lot of excellent feedback, and I believe that contributed to the mass adoption after. Next page, please. So yeah, 2022, actually 6 or 7 months, we were working on the beta version, and finally in May, CosmWasm 1.0 released, and the security audit was very successful. And in this year, actually inside and outside of Cosmos, CosmWasm adoption was done. And what I hear from these all like CosmWasm chains was that the common pain point was that people feel the lack of CosmWasm developers, because every chain wants to have more DApp, more services on their chain, but that requires CosmWasm knowledge. So that's why we started the CosmWasm Academy initiative. I was the project manager, and we offered the knowledge to build CosmWasm smart contracts over 500 people, over 5 cohorts. Next page, please. So 2023 started a bit sadly. We had a funding issue, and we had to stop all the public goods development, like CosmWasm and WasmD and CosmJS, etc. But luckily, after 1 month, we could secure the funding. We resumed the conversation with ICF, and we got the grant from Osmosis, NIM, and DoraHacks, and community funding from Hub and Terra2. But the whole process of getting the community funding was very stressful and painful, and yeah, the market situation made the whole promised funding just couldn't happen, and there were like attacks without the proper grounds, so we learned our lesson. But also exciting thing happened in 2023, which was CosmWasm and HackWasm. This was our first CosmWasm-focused event, conference, and hackathon. It happened 2 months ago, actually, in July in Berlin, and there were more than 300 people. We gathered up all the CosmWasm expertise in the ecosystem, and yeah, I was so proud that actually I could gather up people outside of Cosmos as well, like Near, Solana, and Stellar, the broader community of WASM, and it was very successful. So the 9 months of preparing, organizing, planning, you know, from the ground up, raising sponsorship was very, very difficult because the market was frozen cold, right? And everybody was reducing the marketing budget. But the result was amazing. We nailed it. It was amazing, and you know, even though we couldn't get the financial support from Interchain Foundation or the big CosmWasm users, I hope our results change their mind if we do the second version. And now we are working really hard to ship CosmWasm 2.0 with a better technical enhancement, both beneficial for both CosmWasm contract developers and chain developers. So please stay tuned. Next page, please. So yeah, 2024, these are our plans. So we're gonna continue working on the core libraries. That's our top priority. For example, CosmWasm STD, CW multitest,